Halo pemirsa, apa kabar? Semoga dalam keadaan yang sehat selalu. Kembali berjumpa dalam VOA Global Report from New York City. Saya Randy Wicaksana. Pemirsa, kenaikan suku bunga acuan Amerika Serikat selama 11 kali sejak Maret 2022 ikut menaikkan suku bunga KPR. Apa dampak kenaikan suku bunga KPR terhadap para pemilik properti? Kita simak berikut laporan dari jurnalis VOA Nova Purwadi di Washington DC.
Bank Sentral AS atau Federal Reserve telah mengindikasikan siap mempertahankan suku bunga tinggi untuk waktu lebih lama, alias higher for longer. Analis menilai bagi konsumen AS secara umum ini tak berdampak banyak.
Most people have long-term fixed mortgages, and they were fixed at lower rates, and they're very glad about that, and they're feeling lucky that they locked in a low rate, and they're not going to be under any obligation to change it for a fairly long period of time. So it's not that the mortgage rates went up and the average house payment followed it immediately.
Tapi suku bunga tinggi yang berimbas pada suku bunga KPR membuat warga tak semudah itu pindah rumah.
When mortgages were kind of stable and low, if you didn't like the neighborhood you were in and you drove past another more interesting neighborhood yesterday and you say, well, why don't we move over there? You could do that without a great deal of friction, without suddenly resetting yourself at a mortgage that was twice or more as high as an interest rate and a monthly payment. Now, if you've got a 2% mortgage locked in for 30 years, and if you were to sell and buy another house and go up to a 6% mortgage, that's a barrier. There's a lot of people who might like to move to a larger apartment or a different neighborhood, and they feel constrained from doing that because the refinancing would be very disadvantageous.
Menurut National Association of Realtors, asosiasi realtor terbesar di Amerika Serikat, hanya sekitar 26% dari pembeli rumah sepanjang tahun adalah pembeli pertama. Ini adalah angka terendah sejak asosiasi ini mulai memantau pembelian rumah dan juga apartemen. Menurut Asosiasi Realtor, pukulan ganda, inflasi dan suku bunga tinggi membuat banyak orang menunda pembelian properti pertama. Ditambah lagi sulitnya mengumpulkan uang muka alias DP sebesar 20%.
40 years ago, the typical first-time homebuyer was 28 years old. They're essentially missing out on 8 years of wealth accumulation that they could have through homeownership now that the median age is 36 years old. That's a problem, and we know that's going to impact future trades that they could have in the housing market as well. And we know that there's a smaller pool of these first-time buyers who are entering the market. There's more renters, unfortunately, who are missing out on housing wealth.
Tahun ini Asosiasi Realtor Nasional mencermati kelompok baby boomers usia 58 tahun ke atas menjadi kelompok yang paling banyak jual beli rumah, menyalip kelompok usia milenial 24 hingga 42 tahun. Relatif mapannya keuangan kelompok boomers dianggap berandil dalam perkembangan ini. Dari Washington DC, Nova Purwadi dan tim VOA.
Pemirsa, di Amerika ternyata keberadaan kebun warga punya konsekuensi meningkatkan nilai properti di lingkungannya loh. Menurut riset, nilai properti di lingkungan pemukiman yang dikelilingi kebun warga mengalami kenaikan hingga 9,4% dalam kurun 5 tahun sejak kebun tersebut dibuka. Mungkin bisa dicontoh oleh kota-kota yang metropolitan di Indonesia. Kita lihat contohnya di Seattle, Washington State. Berikut ini.
Pemandangan hijau dengan berbagai bunga, tanaman sayur, hewan, hingga karya seni tersebar seantero kota Seattle. Masing-masing dari 90 kebun warga di sini mencerminkan kekhasan setiap daerah. Meski kecil, kebun warga Trolls Knoll di daerah Fremont sangat unik. Petak-petak kebun di sana dibangun di atas bekas tempat pembuangan akhir.
More famous to be like the gorgeous one that's right in front of Space Needle. To me, is the best place to be because it's peaceful. Originally, it was setting up here because they want to show to everybody around, like the world, that you can garden everywhere. So it's like in the top of a parking lot. It was the best place that they could find to place the garden.
Jaringan kebun warga bernama Pea Patch dimulai 50 tahun lalu di Seattle Timur. Viv sudah berkebun di sini sejak 1978.
We have people in charge of the orchard, in charge of the compost, in charge of the giving gardens. We have work parties and then a potluck. We have a salmon dinner. So those are all times where people can come together and, people can ask questions.
Seattle merupakan salah satu kota yang tumbuh paling pesat di Amerika dan biasanya itu dikaitkan dengan berkurangnya lahan hijau. Tapi pengawas program ini memastikan itu tidak terjadi. Justru petak-petak kebun baru mengantre untuk dibuat, khususnya di pusat kota.
It bubbles up from community interests, whether it be a nook in somebody's neighborhood overrun by illegal activity. And so they say, hey, how do we make this into a better, safer neighborhood? And they build a community garden.
Di Amerika, keberadaan kebun warga meningkatkan nilai properti di lingkungan sekitarnya. Menurut Civic Quell, lembaga non-profit yang mendukung solusi keberlanjutan, di New York, nilai properti di lingkungan permukiman yang mengelilingi kebun warga mengalami kenaikan hingga 9,4% dalam kurun 5 tahun sejak kebun dibuka.
Success for me would be to produce enough food for us to eat for dinner, for our family of 5, with items that I wouldn't typically buy at the store that are perhaps too expensive even to buy at the store, like basil and lemon verbena, big artichokes, Romano beans.
Bruce dan Christina berkenalan dan bahkan menikah berkat kebun ini.
The first place is your home, the second place is where you work, and the third place is the place where you are most of the time when you're not at places 1 and 2. So for a lot of people, this is our third place.
Dari Seattle, tim VOA.
Pemirsa, usai jeda kita akan kembali dalam segmen Hello Planner bersama dengan Aryatna Budianto yang akan ngobrol-ngobrol dengan seorang diaspora Indonesia yang mengelola dance studio di California. Seberapa cuankah? Simak setelah jeda berikut ini.
Pemirsa, sekarang saya ajak Anda berkunjung ke Irvine, California untuk melihat sebuah bisnis milik diaspora Indonesia yang cukup unik. Ini adalah S1L Studio yang dimiliki oleh Shirley Wijaya. Yuk kita ngobrol-ngobrol dengannya tentang mendirikan bisnis dance studio di Amerika.
Halo, nama saya Shirley Wijaya, pemilik dance studio S1L Studio di Irvine, California. Pertama kali ada ide buat buka bisnis ini 2018, and then after 10 tahun, being a stay-home mom, terus ya not being healthy, nggak sehat gitu, ambil kelas, terus berasa, more
Terinspirasi.
Iya, terinspirasi. Lihat studio-studio punya community, kayaknya enak lah, positif gitu. Jadi pikir, it's probably a fun business to open. Finally, after kira-kira 5 bulan, 6 bulan looking for the space and finding how, soalnya ini benar-benar learning curve yang nggak ngerti gimana cara bikin studio. The hardest part is cari tempatnya. Soalnya Irvine itu benar-benar strict. Apalagi new business, terus studio kan berisik ya. Terus jadi cari tempat is very limited.
Dan di sekitar sini saya lihat banyak dance studio juga, ada martial art dan lain sebagainya. Itu kira-kira range-nya berapa per bulan? Gitu?
Kalau di Irvine specifically, kalau di Orange County, itu mereka charge per square footage. Jadi tergantung berapa besar luasnya. It can range dari $2 atau $1.50 to $3, depends on the place. Tapi they charge per square footage.
Untuk mendirikan sebuah dance studio itu apa saja yang harus diperlukan?
Pertama kali ya mesti ada koneksi ya sama instructors. Soalnya susah ya kalau pertama kali buka terus nggak ada yang kenal, nggak ada yang tahu siapa yang bisa tiba-tiba datang ke sini, Jadi untuk hire instructor yang memang sudah ada pengikutnya, jadi mereka bisa advertise for their own class. Terus, ya basically the biggest is passion sih. Dan studio technically you don't make a lot of money, you know, because very limited. Ya bisa the most 30 orang per kelas, you know. Jadi pertama kali ya you have to have passion. Kedua ya mesti kenal-kenal instructor. Terus hire good instructor yang bisa membawa orang untuk datang ke kelas mereka gitu ya.
Jadi yang ditawarkan oleh S1L Studio itu apa aja?
Sekarang we have K-pop cover class, juga ada choreography class, jadi hip hop, jazz funk, juga heels. Terus kita juga ada offer workout classes kayak cardio, ada reggaeton. Jadi lebih focus on fitness, but mostly choreography, but also both fitness and choreography.
Apa yang paling populer?
All the classes ada followers sendiri-sendiri. Ada orang yang suka K-pop, jadi pergi ke all K-pop classes. Ada yang datang cuma mau olahraga. Ada yang specific class have specific follower.
The community is great. Everyone's friendly. Everyone's warm, welcoming. When you enter, everyone's just says hi. You make sure you have a good time.
Are you guys all friends or became friends here?
Through here.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
They're the reason why I
Yeah.
come back, frankly.
So which one's your favorite?
No favorites, but at least for me, because I listen to K-pop so much, I would say like that's definitely like my favorite thing, because it's like I get to enjoy something that I really listen to, and then with like people that also really enjoy it, so it's like 2 for 1.
Yeah, I'd say the K-pop classes for me too, because same thing. Like I've been listening to K-pop for a while, but it would be something like, oh, I just like dance in my room and try and do it. And the fact that there's actual classes for it now is really cool. And like they both said, I've met so many like great people through the studio, and all the teachers are great as well. So it's just been a really nice experience.
In the studio, it's $17 per session. Tapi in general, it range from $16 to $20, tergantung studionya. Tapi kita juga ada paket-paket yang kalau beli paket 10 atau 15 jadi lebih murah.
Ini kira-kira ada berapa muridnya yang datang per bulan gitu?
Per bulan. I think average sistemnya sih kasih lihat saya per hari average sekitar 50 to 65 per harinya.
Setelah 4 tahun menjalankan bisnis studio dance ini, apa sih suka dukanya?
I enjoy dancing myself. Terus ya positive way of spending time ya. Jadi instead of, because I'm older, jadi bukannya shopping lah and like all this, you know,
yang
arisan gitu lah, all this stuff. Jadi lebih berolahraga, jadi moving. Terus juga sukanya ya have the community, meet a lot of new people. Terus ya at an older age, untuk experience something like this is priceless gitu loh. Dukanya ya, you know, it's still a business ya. Jadi during the pandemic lah, nanti, you know, and then studio in general don't make a lot of money. Bukannya tipe bisnis yang I wanna be rich, let's open a studio. Itu never the case. Jadi ya business wise ya still have to keep changing, you know, still have to deal with management. And yang number one sih buat saya sih sebenarnya expense it should be low. Simple business. Saya cuma ada 2, front desk and then myself, and then that's it. Jadi that's how we survive during the pandemic. Business plan is everything. Jadi do the research, make sure ini business bisa profitable. Always be on top of things. Ya instructor yang, you know, mana yang bagus, yang mesti. It's always about the products, the service, you know. So juga make sure community-nya being served properly gitu. 3 tips untuk menjalankan bisnis dan studio. Number 1, mesti ada passion. Number 2, do your research. Go to many different studios. And number 3, do a business plan.
Welcome back to VOA Global Report from New York City. Saya Randy Wicaksana, pemirsa. Sejumlah kantor di San Francisco, California pindah dari pusat perkotaan ke daerah yang lebih tenang. Ini menjadi sebuah fenomena yang diprediksi akan berdampak luas pada industri teknologi di dunia. Selengkapnya dilaporkan oleh jurnalis VOA, Virginia Gunawan.
Pasca darurat pandemi, firma modal Ventura Headline di San Francisco, California, memilih untuk meninggalkan kantor pencakar langit Trans Amerika setelah masa sewanya berakhir.
But it did feel a little bit more corporate. You know, it was hard to get to. There was a lot of security. It didn't feel integrated.
Pandemi juga mendorong perubahan cara kerja dengan waktu kerja dari rumah yang lebih fleksibel dan pengurangan tenaga kerja. Sementara tingkat kriminalitas di pusat kota San Francisco pun meningkat.
Downtown San Francisco was never a place I wanted to go. If I had a client meeting downtown, I wanted to be in and out as efficiently as possible. And so to me, it's always been a little bit of a sad part of this beautiful gem of a city. And no, you don't get that green space. And I think that's a huge miss.
Headline memilih The Presidio sebagai kantor baru mereka. Bekas barak militer yang merupakan taman nasional ini menghadap langsung ke jembatan ikonik The Golden Gate Bridge.
And then we ultimately came, to the decision to come here to the Presidio because it really represented what we thought the future work should be. And then secondly also that it represented us as a firm, who we are, our culture and our values.
Sektor retail juga mulai meninggalkan pusat kota San Francisco seiring dengan menurunnya jumlah pejalan kaki hingga 40% dibandingkan tahun 2019. Pengamat real estate menilai peralihan ini akan berdampak pada industri teknologi San Francisco yang sepertiga dananya disokong oleh modal Ventura.
Because we do have this phenomenon that we call flight to quality, where companies are looking at how do I move into better quality space that's going to be more attractive, more conducive for my employees to come to the office, to be able to collaborate, and in the case of tech companies to innovate. So we do see that happening.
Saat ini tingkat keterisian real estate di daerah Presidio hanya mencapai 5%, jauh lebih rendah dibandingkan pusat kota San Francisco yang bisa mencapai 35% menurut Presidio Trust, badan pemerintah yang mengatur wilayah ini. Dari San Francisco, California, Virginia Gunawan dan tim VOA.
Pemirsa, lebih senang WFH atau WFO? Sejak pandemi, gaya bekerja warga Amerika juga sudah berubah banyak banget. Sebagian ada yang udah mulai kerja penuh dari rumah, ada yang juga hybrid, sebagian di kantor, sebagian di rumah. Lantas seperti apa sih jadinya masa depan perkantoran di Amerika Serikat? Kita simak berikut informasi selengkapnya.
Sekilas, laboratorium inovasi tempat kerja ini terasa seperti kantor pada umumnya. Tapi bagian lainnya lebih terlihat seperti rumah. General Services Administration atau GSA, badan yang bertanggung jawab atas gedung-gedung federal AS, tengah mencari format yang paling cocok untuk kantor masa depan.
The office should be a magnet, not a mandate. We're looking to have an office that brings people back to it purposefully.
Selama percobaan setahun ini, setiap pekerja federal diizinkan untuk memesan ruang di laboratorium. Sebagai imbalannya, mereka memberikan umpan balik tentang pengalaman mereka.
It's not a one-size-fits-all. And in certain agencies and certain offices, it can be multiple solutions. And so we're looking at what is that mix of a solution.
Menurut para pakar, format kantor lama tidak lagi berfungsi di dunia pasca COVID. Pegawai yang selama pandemi bekerja dari rumah yang nyaman, tidak lagi semangat untuk kembali ke bilik-bilik di kantor-kantor yang sebagian besar kosong.
The offices that we have largely been designed as a place that people need to come. Many of them are cube farms that are really boring, unexciting, and nobody wants to be there. And the office has to be better for someone than working from home and enduring the commute to come into the office.
Itu artinya memiliki kualitas akustik dan teknologi yang lebih baik dalam kantor yang lebih cekatan.
But this is actually a table that's made up a lot of little wood pieces that actually folds away.
Di mana perabotan dapat dipindahkan agar lebih sesuai dengan kebutuhan pekerja. Aditya membayangkan ruang konferensi yang imersif dan mungkin mengakomodasi kebutuhan sehari-hari pekerja.
So one of the reasons that a lot of people work from home is that they have to pick up the kids, they have to do dry cleaning, they have to take care of the dog. And so what if there were pet care in the building? What if there was childcare in the building? Things that actually make it that my life is easier because I'm going to the office, not that it's harder because I'm going to the office.
Perencana kantor masa depan mencoba memenuhi 3 kriteria utama.
Has to be quality, has to be serving a purpose, but it still has to be beautiful. And so that's what we're looking for here is you don't want to go into a building that looks like you're in a basement you're on the 10th floor of a building kind of thing.
Data terbaru Biro Statistik Perburuhan AS menunjukkan dari berbagai sektor, industri informatika punya tingkat work from home tertinggi dengan 42%, disusul jasa 25% dan pendidikan 19%. Sementara yang terkecil adalah tambang, konstruksi dan retail yang masing-masing 2%. Dari Washington DC, Rio Tuasikal dan tim VOA.
Demikian VOA Global Report episode kali ini. Pemirsa jangan lupa saksikan episode terbarunya setiap pekannya di YouTube VOA Indonesia. Saya Reni Wijaksana pamit undur diri. From New York City, sampai jumpa.